Alright guys, today we're going to talk about bugging in or sheltering in place. Bugging out is a topic that lots of people and different prepping channels really enjoy because we get to talk about lots of survival gear, freeze-dried food, and imagine setting up a campsite in the woods like an adventurer or a cowboy. This was very common in the early days of survival YouTube, where pretty much every single channel was about how to bug out and survive in the wild. Even now, there are so many channels that mainly focus on leaving your home and wilderness survival. Bugging out is something that should always be a possibility in your plans, and you should be ready for it because there could be a chemical spill, an out of control fire that could destroy your whole neighborhood, a flood, maybe it's a hurricane. So it's something that you should have a planned escape route for and have a bug out bag ready for you and each of your family members. But in most other scenarios, I would say maybe 90% of scenarios, the best thing to do is shelter in place because you have a large stockpile of food, water, gear, and you and your family have a roof over your head and you're protected from the elements. When there's a real emergency or disaster and it's actually happening, I guarantee you that even the people who kind of fantasize about bugging out will much rather prefer to stay at home. So let's go over what to do and what you need for a shelter-in-place scenario because there's already too many videos and information online about bugging out. First up, let's go over some info on a nuclear emergency. If you're at home and you suddenly get the notification on your phone or on the news about a nuclear emergency, you need to get your family and you need to grab at the very minimum 3 days worth of food and water, a NOAA radio, potassium iodide, maybe some nice children's books for your kids to pass time, and then head to your basement. The best thing to do would be to place all those items in your basement in advance so you don't have to run around the house in panic, grabbing different items and then going to your basement. If there's a nuclear emergency, you can expect to stay in your basement for about 1 to 3 days and not leave your home for about 10 days. 10 days is also the time I recommend taking your potassium iodide. This info also might vary depending on what information comes over your NOAA radio from emergency personnel. You need water for every kind of emergency scenario. So one of the first things you need to do when you're aware of a possible incoming emergency is fill up all your buckets, pots, pans, and water containers with water, just in case your tap water gets shut off. You should also fill up your bathtub so you have some extra emergency water as well. You also need a separate stockpile of water, so water bottles, 1-gallon water jugs, aqua bricks, water barrels, and you need a way to filter dirty water you're going to go out and collect. So make sure to have water filters and aqua tabs as well. I recommend that you try and stockpile in total about 250 gallons of water. You also need to stockpile food. A lot of emergency guides will tell you that 3 days worth of food is enough, but most people I know already have about 3 days worth of food at home anyways, or will be able to figure something out. 3 days worth of food is nothing. I think you should try and aim for a stockpile of 6 months worth of food or more. It's not going to happen overnight, but if you keep buying a little bit of food every week, you'll eventually be able to build up a massive stockpile. Canned food is the easiest food to get because you can just buy it at the grocery store when you go there on the weekend. So canned beans, canned fruit, canned meat, and canned vegetables. Dry foods are great as well, like rice, pasta, beans, and oats. All those foods are filling and are inexpensive. Remember to put them in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. I have a video explaining and showing how to do it in a very simple way, and the video is less than 4 minutes. Definitely go and check it out if you've never stored food in Mylar bags. Freeze-dried food is very good as well because you don't have to put it in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and it'll still last 25 to 30 years. But it's very expensive, and I don't expect most people to be able to stockpile lots of freeze-dried food in this economy. Stockpile seeds, and if you have a backyard, then start on your vegetable garden, because being able to grow your own food is the absolute best thing you can do. You won't have to rely on grocery stores being able to restock their shelves. Also look into animal husbandry. Now this isn't possible for a lot of people, but if you have the space and have land, then raising cattle, chickens, and rabbits will give you a huge advantage over the majority of people, and you'll be completely self-reliant for protein sources. You won't have to resort to eating bugs. You'll need a propane stove to cook your food and boil water in case the gas stops working. You'll also need a propane heater to keep warm. Just make sure to have a carbon monoxide alarm nearby if you're planning to use any of these items inside your home. You'll go through propane cylinders very quickly, so make sure to have lots of them. In yesterday's video, I also talked about chafing fuel cans. Those are decent for cooking and providing you a little bit of heat. Get some candles as well for light and warmth. You should also buy the usual stuff like flashlights and lanterns. I also recommend having firewood stockpiled in advance so you can start a fire in your backyard for boiling water and cooking food. If your house is really cold, what you can do is gather all your family in one room, then go out with pots and pans of water, boil them, and then fill up some water bottles with hot water and give them to each of your family members. Then they'll use it like a hot pack or hand warmer. Maybe put it close to them or under their blanket. Also, having pans of hot water in the room will also make the room warmer and help out a lot. Just close the door and possibly seal off the bottom of it with a blanket to keep all the heat inside. You also need to have bandages and basic first aid gear in case you get hurt. To power and charge all your devices, get solar chargers, power banks, and possibly a solar generator if you can afford it. Generators are great. You can use them to power an electric heater, a fan, an electric stove. You can use it to keep your fridge running so your meat doesn't get ruined as well. You also need to worry about protecting your home in case people resort to looting. So have all your self-defense tools ready, put some motion sensor lights around your house, put a door security bar on your front door which prevents it from being kicked in. If it's a situation where you have to shelter in and your electricity is still working, then make sure your cameras are on and also make sure your security system is armed. Add stuff like board games to keep you and your family entertained. Hygiene and cleanliness is important as well, so you need soap, shampoo, toothbrushes, toothpaste, and stuff for general cleaning like Lysol wipes, bleach, Clorox sprays, and garbage bags. You also need to stockpile all the usual over-the-counter medication like Tylenol and stuff like that. You also need antibiotics and extra bottles of any special medication you may take. Having some emergency cash is really important as well. In a long-term scenario, eventually no one will want your cash, but in the short term, you can use cash to buy some last-minute emergency foods and supplies from a local store. Stockpile as much as you can depending on your financial situation, but I would say anywhere around $200 to $300 can get you a good amount of supplies from your local grocery store. Guys, I could make this video an hour long, but this will just give you some of the basics and maybe it just refreshes your memory on how you need to prepare and what you need to stockpile. That's all I have for today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to click the like button and hit subscribe.